Ronseal, as many of you will know, have been a partner of the Men's Shed Association for a number of years now. I've actually done lots of work with Patrick, Mike and Jeff over the last few years. Now, as a shed, if you are looking to market yourself, Ronseal's keen to help. So we help sheds in lots of different ways. So if you're working on a project and you need product, and we, do get in touch. I think Rachel's going to put my email address up on screen, so do take a note of it there. If we can help, we will. We've also got a very experienced PR team who've been working with the network for a number of years now. So we can help promote your shed, especially help you identify stories that the local press might be interested in if you need some support. So again, they're all things that we can get involved with. We've also got a couple of campaigns running at the moment, which I'm hoping that you've heard about, but are doing wonders in terms of building the profile and the importance of sheds. So one of them is a partnership that we've worked on with Channel 4, and that we did the filming in Camden Shed, and that brought to life some of the work that the sheds do. And I'm sure you've seen that. It's called The Shed. That's reached 1.5 million people already through social. And it will continue to be used, to help promote the work that the shed's doing. As part of that, Ronseal's running another campaign called Conversations in the Shed, where we're looking for people to come forward, just their personal stories, really, of what happens in their shed and how the shed has benefited them on a personal level. And then what we're doing is we're picking the most interesting stories, and then we are recording them just via Zoom, so you can do it in the safety of your own home. And then editing them as little short films that we're pushing across Ronseal's social channels with some media spend behind them. And they will also make that content available for you. So another great way of you promoting your shed through your social networks. Now, Jeff has taken part in this, and we have got a short film, I believe, which we can show you, which just gives you a little bit of an understanding and illustration of the content that we're making to help market sheds. Rachel, is it okay to play the film?
In 2014, when my wife's health had deteriorated so far, and I found myself living alone in a large house in a town that I didn't have a lot of social contacts. And that was a lonely time. Flyer went up in town saying, anybody fancy a men's shed? And a handful of us got together, said it was a good idea, and within a few months.
There we go. So that's just a clip. And
I believe I'm in a much better place.
Just to show you that, obviously, because we're all still in lockdown, we are limited to kind of what we can do. But through the power of Zoom, we can make some really lovely content. And that is running across all Ronseal social channels at the moment and getting some really good engagement. So just to finish off, we've also developed over the last few years a DIY course that we trialled with one of the Manchester sheds. So if anybody does want to do their own DIY courses but doesn't know where to start, we have a 2-day program that is already planned out with a marketing plan around it. And obviously we wanted to do more, but in lockdown we couldn't. But if you want to be thinking about how you can do these sorts of courses and we can help, again, drop me an email and we can share that. And it's like an off-the-shelf course that you could use yourselves in terms of teaching the basic DIY skills. So I suppose if my call out really is, if you have interesting stories to tell, if there's product requests, if you've got some projects that we can help with, then do drop me an email. And if we can help, then we will. And that's it from me.
Oh, that's brilliant. I must take up that DIY course idea. Start training in Bridge. Great. Well, we're actually minutes ahead of schedule. So I see there are some questions, but I'm afraid when I click on the chat button on my screen, I can't see them. So can anybody else see the questions that are being asked? Okay, that's not worked.
I can ask you the question if you want. I'm not sure if you can all see it there.
Online. Yeah.
Okay. Just display it. So Chris Manning had just said that their shed is on a steep learning curve refunding, and the session is one that the committee will be watching. So that's a good comment. We also had a question earlier, which I'll just flash up. I don't think we got to it. It's more of a comment, really, but I don't know if you've got any thoughts on this, if you can all see it.
The local council and the local medical centre have got a large grant in conjunction with a community interest company for green development and climate change approaches. And actually the Frome Sheds are getting together to work with that group in order to address some of the issues around climate and energy conservation, etc., etc. So we're hoping that will be worthwhile going forward as well.
Comment raises a couple of points. One is around grants, and I'm sure we'll be talking about grants later, and people often think of national grants, but I think if you're some communities are fortunate in that there are community grants, and they're often quite easy to access. The most common widespread, of course, is the carrier bag grants, which comes from most supermarkets. But there are others. If you happen to have a landfill in the area, there's a landfill tax, which has to go back to environmental products. And there's a lot of the things you're doing in the shed is upcycling or recycling, and there's a chance of getting hold of that. If you are fortunate or unfortunate, depends how you look at it, to have a wind farm in your facility, there's quite a lot of money coming in from that. And as those are often in less populous areas, the money often comes through community groups or a big local community organisation, and it's a lot of money going into a little need. After a few years out, sometimes they're quite generous with where that money goes. So look for things like that where there's a legal requirement to turn money back into charitable use. And then just a little point on donations. When I was talking about building things, one of the things we do as a shed is when we do a commission for an individual, and we judge that they're of the right mindset, we will often agree to do something and only invoice for the materials that we use, and ask them to make a donation, because our time is our own. We ask them to make a donation to cover anything else. So we only want to charge them for what we've actually spent in building the thing. And quite often that brings in quite a large donation. Yeah. Because it's a donation and it's not, the service was fully paid for, you can get gift aid on it.
Exactly.
And you know, we got £550 gift aid this year. That was a good income stream. Sorry, I got across it, Patrick.
Yeah, no, that's exactly the point we do too, I think. But the other thing we do is for very small organisations or charities, we say, hey, don't give us a donation. Why don't you do a press release? Why don't we do a joint press release? You know, and that we've done that for local youth groups. We did that just recently for a Cats Protection League. And that's very useful because then they say wonderful things about you, which you don't have to say. And it works really well. So that would be my advice, especially if it's a very small organisation that's going to give you a modest donation. You know, a press release costs nothing, you know?
Yeah. Good.
And the other thing, I've got a personal principle, Jeff, is that whenever I go to an organisation for the first time, even if it's a grant-giving body, I never ask for money. And do you know what? 3 times out of 4, at the end of the meeting, they say, do you need any money? And in fact, more than that, sometimes I've had 2 organisations that actually said, look, why don't we do a funding application now? Just like your expression, you know, the expression that you had just now, Jeff, where someone rings you up and said, we need someone to submit a grant. So, but if you don't ask for money, it often gets offered.
I bought a shed, I took it home, and I erected it. I bought a shed, I took it home, I'd selected it. I bought a shed, I bought a shed, I bought a shed. I followed the instructions, studied all the plans, worked day and night to get it right with blisters on my hands. And when I put the roof on and finished off the floor, I knew inside my heart of hearts I'd be ignorant no more. I heard a no inside my shed, I suspected it. I felt a no inside my shed, I detected it. I was so scared of what he said that I rejected it. He said, forget about the tarot, the I Ching and the runes. Get down your garden centre on a Sunday afternoon. Go past the cafeteria, blast all the flower beds. If you're searching for enlightenment, get straight for the sheds. And so we lived inside our shed, and we respected it. I taught him, and he taught me, and we perfected it. And all because I bought a shed.